If you are either just starting to learn how to shuffle dance or you've been shuffle dancing for a long time, but you never know what to do with your arms, this is going to be the video for you. I'm going to give you 3 different ways and my top tips for each of how you can use your arms creatively in shuffle dance. I am Coach Alex, the founder of Shuffle Shred. Let's get right into it. So before I actually give you these 3 specific ways that I like to use my arms, that you can use your arms creatively in your shuffle dance, I first want to make a huge point that arm movements are one thing, but we have to remember that in order for these movements to look organic, for them to look connected and not disjointed, they actually have to start in our groove center, a lot of the time with our chest and shoulders. So while we are going through these examples today, I want you to think about the chest and shoulders initiating the movements and then your arm being a byproduct of that. That way everything looks really, really connected. And if you want this in a future tutorial, talking a little bit more on how to keep your chest and shoulders as the origin of movement, then comment on this one and I will create it for later. So let's actually get started. The first arm movement that you can try out is leading with your elbows or just being kind of like elbow focused in your flow. That doesn't mean that every single time you move, you have to move your elbows, right? This is where I'm gonna give you something and I want you to run with it. I want you to be creative with it. So if you want to start out by like literally using an elbow and changing your movement every time you move your feet on every whole count or every half count, you can totally do that. But just know you can also use your elbows in a slower way, right? My elbow is still initiating here. It's still the focal point, but it's taking a little bit longer to get from point A to point B. So you can kind of play around with tempo changes there. But what this could look like, I want you to think of the different directions that you could throw your elbows in. So maybe it's like side to side. Notice that my chest and shoulder are like initiating this movement, right? It's not just like side, side. That could be used creatively as well if you wanted to, if you wanted something like more sharp and disconnected on purpose, but I'll leave that for you to play around with, right? So you can go to the sides, you can bring your elbow to the front. So whether it's like literally in front of you like this, or you can twist your body so that the elbow ends up in front. So what this could look like, just as a few examples with the Running Man, could be like side, 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 hop to the front, to the front, to the front, to the back, to the front, right? My footwork was super simple, kept it super fundamental, really chill, but playing with the elbows. All right, that's number 1. Number 2, I love this one. It makes me feel so groovy. And it is simply pointing your fingers in different directions. So the prompt will be pointing, okay? A lot of people will use this to actually mimic or mirror what they are doing on their feet. So for example, if I was doing a T-step sequence, I would take either the same arm or the opposite arm, it doesn't really matter, and point to the same tapping pattern, right? So it almost looks like my arm and my foot are kind of on a connected string. Sometimes people call this a puppeteer, etc. But you don't have to, that's one way to do it. You don't have to match what you are doing with your feet. You can simply just spend time, like I have so many things in my room. I have, literally things everywhere. So I could use the space around me as a prompt as well. And just think about pointing to different things, right? Pointing around the room. Pa, 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 do, ta. Point at you, point at me, right? So pointing is an awesome way to get creative with your upper body. And I find that it's super helpful because your brain is focusing on like, oh, where do I point next? It doesn't stress so much about what you're doing on your feet. You'll be using most likely your fundamentals. And obviously the more comfy you get with it, you can, increase to something a little bit more trickier on the feet or different variations if you want to. So the second one is pointing. Quickly, I want to go back and talk about how the chest and shoulders impact that. So again, we could do it 2 ways. There's lots of ways we could do it, but I'm just going to explain 2 ways. We could creatively decide that we want to keep the chest and shoulders tight or stiff on purpose and like point around, right, in a very like robotic way. I don't know if that's the right word, but we could do that on purpose. Or we could allow the chest and shoulders to go with it. So let's say I was doing a T-step sequence. Every time I point, I'm either like opening or closing my chest and shoulders with it, right? Pa, pa. See how my shoulders like twisted over? I could do that same move and just do this, and it looks completely different than when my shoulders engaged with it. So play around with that. You're gonna feel more and more groovy when the chest and shoulders and the groove is activated, all right? The third and final one, I love this one, and I just call this flow arms. All you have to do is imagine that you are basically moving through water. So if you were in a pool right now or in the ocean, I'm an ocean girl, and you were just like gracefully moving through the water, right? There's no real like start and stop. Again, you could use that creatively, but maybe just take a minute here and like explore. Let's say you were deep enough that like even if you brought your hands above you, you would still be exploring through the waters. And this is something else that you can do, especially if you are listening to a more melodic beat. Maybe you're dancing to melodic house or progressive house or something like that. And you want to like bring out more of this softer element. This is a great way to do it. So your prompt is literally move as if you are moving through water, move with fluidity, move with flow arms, whichever one kind of resonates the most with you. Super important here. I'm going to show you the difference. Let's say I'm doing my running man and I'm moving with flow arms, but I'm not using my chest and shoulders. Okay, so I'll probably do running man and T-step because I know a T-step's going to come out, so we may as well just do it on purpose. So again, just fundamentals on the feet, not doing anything crazy. My intention and attention is completely going on my arms. So all I'm going to do is not focus on the shoulders, but I'm just going to focus on the upper body. So this is what it could look like. Right? Nothing is wrong with this. Probably looks pretty good. But now we're going to go back to the concept of using my chest and shoulders and using different like weight transfers as I'm moving to initiate these movements and feel that connection, even though my feet are doing something that is very like strategic and very black and white. You know, shuffle dance has a lot of like very clean points to it. We can bring that up and merge it with the fluidity of the upper body by engaging the chest and shoulders and the groove center as a whole. So now watch the difference, okay? I'm gonna do the same things, but all I'm gonna do is imagine my shoulders initiating this, and then my upper body and my arms are gonna flow with it naturally. Here we go. So it's basically the same thing, but you can see how the opening and closing of my chest is making all the difference. Chest and shoulders, I should say. So, you now have 3 completely different ways to move your arms, completely different prompts to take away. They're all gonna create something totally unique in your flow. If you found this video helpful, it would be so helpful for me if you subscribed, if you liked, if you shared it with a friend, and make sure you drop in the comments anything else that you want to learn right here on the Shuffle Shred YouTube. This is where you're going to learn how to be a confident, powerful, and unique shuffle dancer, and I'll see you in the next video.